So welcome, gentlemen, and welcome to the Professional Scrum Foundation sneak peek. I am going to share the mural with you right now in the chat window. So take a look and open it. I know that for some of you, this is going to be the second or third link to the mural. This is okay because the mural does not. In the chat window of Zoom, you don't see the history of the chat. You only see from the moment you have entered. So there might be more. So the first thing we're going to do is the mural crash course, so that you know how to deal with the tool. If you can find in the top left part of the mural, you will find a huge red circle. This is where we are actually starting. So the first thing you're going to do is in the top right panel, find this icon, this little icon that is there in white, and click it. It's something called an outline. Outline is something that is going to enable us to navigate through the class. So this is the first important thing. If you click on any of those elements, this is going to take you further in a mural. It is structured in such a way that there is a flow through it. So you hopefully won't get lost. It didn't happen before. So now the first exercise is go to an outline and click number 2. The moment you click number 2, you will find yourself zoomed in to something called add an icon. You will see a little star above it and find the same star on the left-hand panel. On the left of your screen, and pick any icon from under the star, drag and drop it somewhere around there. And the very important thing is you have to change its color. So come up on how to change its color. So don't leave the original color. All right, I can see that there are things that have been added. Great.
Sorry, Kate, did you share the mural in the chat? Because I can't see it.
Oh, sorry. I see that the mural went accidentally privately to one of the participants.
Yeah.
Now it's available to everybody. So find a huge red circle, click in the outline, and then find number 2 and add an icon. All right. Now let's go into number 3. So add a sticky note with your name. We know that we have one participant that is only observing, and the other participants are going to be taking part. Jack, are you with us, or did you kind of lose yourself in the mural? I think we've lost him as well.
Just a tip. I don't know if you want to let people know that to add a sticky note, you just double click, which is a quick shortcut.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. You can double click. This is what usually people are kind of exploring themselves. Yep. Finding out for themselves. There's also one very important thing if it comes to working with Mural. Use Ctrl+Z. So the moment you did something, you don't know what you did, just use Ctrl+Z. This is working every single time. All right, so I see we have some names. Then let's go into number 4. So navigate with a mouse wheel or dragging the mural and find Waldo or Wally. Some of you know him as Wally, some of you know him as Waldo. So find him. He is somewhere in the mural. I see that Elephant found him already.
That's me. Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Elephant.
Yay! Raccoon found it too. And then the lion is trying. Elephant, yep. Okay, I guess looks like you found him. He's basically in the middle. of the mural. Great. This is a little exercise to kind of let you navigate through it. Then let's go into number 5. So the tiny contract. So there are going to be 4 elements in the contract. First, don't mute yourself unless necessary. This is something that is going to enable us to speak more freely. So if you have a background noise, of course, then go ahead and mute yourself. But if you don't mute yourself. This is fine. Cameras on so that we can see, each other. Then interrupt and ask. So the moment you have a question, any type of questions, just go ahead and shoot. And we are going to have a short 10-minute break in the middle of the session. So, all right, let's go into number 6. Who are you? So I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves. I hope that the gentlemen that don't have the cameras on will also participate in that, but we'll see. So either drag the sticky with your name on there. So whether you are a manager, product owner, developer, Scrum Master, or an Agile coach, or anybody else, then kind of leave yourselves outside of the circles. And then I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves very briefly, who you are, and yeah, simple as that. All right, so who would like to start?
I'm quite happy to. Sorry, go.
Go.
Go, Massimo. You go, mate.
Okay, I'm a trainer, professional Scrum trainer, accredited Kanban trainer, Agile coach, and most of my work is in Italy now. And I was in London for some years, what was some years ago now. So I spent most of my time with large enterprises here in Italy, telcos and energy.
Great.
Thank you.
Right, pass it on to someone.
Alex.
Thanks. Yes, so similar, I'm a professional Scrum trainer, Agile coach, but kind of specialize in the technical Agile coach. I kind of led software craftsmanship movement in a large bank, in a German bank. I've just left that contract, so at the moment looking for work, but I've been a developer for 19 years. So I came from a development background. I'm passionate about kind of software craftsmanship, or software craft, as now it should be called. So yeah, that's it. Who's next? Mark?
Yeah, that makes us 3. So I'm also a professional Scrum trainer, working with Scrum since 2008. I'm also a solution-focused coach, and I'm kind of specializing in the relationships in between the people actually doing the work. Yeah, that's what makes me maybe special here.
All right, great. Gentlemen, Piotr or Jack, would you like to introduce yourselves? All right, I see that both are still muted, so I guess they cannot do that. All right, so a little bit about me. My name is Kate Hobler. My last name used to be Terlecka, so under that last name, I'm still Googleable. This is the Professional Scrum Foundations sneak peek. This is something to show you what the full class is about, and a little bit about Scrum itself. I am a founder of a company called Braswello. We're working on the Polish market, but not only. We're basically training people in 24 countries, I think it was. So this is quite a nice number. And I have been doing I have been crunching some numbers for this little introduction. It came out that I have been working 11 years with agility. And I have been a professional Scrum trainer for 10 years now. I love board games, and in my life, I have trained over 12,000 people. And that kind of I think it looks pretty good. I also have 2 boys. I am a mother to 1, stepmother to the 2nd, and I really like them. So this is a little about me. All right, let's go into the meat. The first is something called the Stacey chart. So what I would like you to do is to put a sticky on there. But let me first introduce you to the concept itself. The Stacey chart, Ralph Stacey, because this is the name of the guy, came up with a quite interesting way of categorizing problems. First is he used it in two dimensions. So first, a technology. So the horizontal line is the technology line. Though you will see that on the left, the technology is certain. So something that doesn't change often. On the right, you will find it far from certainty. So a technology that changes a lot. So you would need to upgrade your technology quite often. Then on the vertical line, you will see requirements. Ones on the bottom would be very certain, so something that doesn't change throughout the course of the project or product development. And on the top, you will have something that's far from certainty. So they would change, and they would change a lot, possibly even on a daily basis. So what I would like you to do now is to add a sticky note with nothing on it, just a simple sticky note, where you think your current project or product, your current work places on that chart. So just put a single sticky. All right. So it's not very certain. So let me show you now how Ralph Stacey actually structured his chart. So let me put kind of insights of the chart on the chart itself. So you'll see that, let me put it on top, bring it to front. That something that's on the very left is simple. So everything or almost everything is known. Then when one of those axes starts to be a little more uncertain, it starts being complicated. In a complicated world, you will have more knowns than unknowns, but still the part of the unknowns might be quite big. Then when both of those start being extreme, and there's more unknown than known altogether, so you have less than half of the things that you know, you will become complex. And if both of those start being far from certainty, you go into chaos, where very little is known. As you can see, the stickies that have been placed are kind of on the verge of chaos. So some of those are in complex, some of them are in chaos. So the question is, how do you think we should proceed with cards like this, so with problems like this? If we have simple problems where everything is known, what would you say would be a good course of action? How to solve that?
Well, very procedural, isn't it? Very kind of, you know what you're doing, so you just need to follow the steps. So that can be very kind of planned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And if it comes to complicated, so when one of those axes is kind of growing, so either the technology is uncertain or the requirements are uncertain.
I think you need to come up with a plan on how to handle that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is something where you would probably place building a house maybe, off a plan, so that you already have a plan, you have everything is known, because you have all the geological reports, you know how strong the materials are, you know their properties, so you know almost everything apart from the weather and whether people are going to be available, sick or healthy. So there are still some unknowns, but you can know more. And how about complex? So there's more unknowns.
Well, things are going to change, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Exactly. So for example, if you are there on the market, you are trying to predict the future because this is crucial for whatever you are doing. This is going to be complex because you don't know how people are going to react. So this is complex. In complex, you would find, apart from software development, because software development is in the majority of cases is complex, you will also find various types of medicine where you need to kind of try if something is working, and then if it's working, great, let's use that. If it's not working, we need to adjust something. This is exactly what's happening right now with vaccines and with the drugs that would battle the virus that we have right now in the world. Yeah. And what about chaos? There is one card that is completely in the chaos. What can you do if there is chaos? So you basically know nothing. So just something happened.
Just move fast and act and let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
A bit like the government doing now.
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly. This is pure improvisation, right? You just jump head first because you don't know what to do. You have never encountered that, or you know nothing. There is a virus. It's spreading really fast. What to do? Nobody knows. Yeah? We have to improvise and test. Every single country is trying something different. If something worked in one country, then others are copying that. This is how the world works right now. We are in chaos, right? So, so basically, in this graph, if you are somewhere around, let me show you on a circle. Come on, little circle, please move. If you are somewhere around here, let's make it a little blue. If you're somewhere around here, so in complex with maybe a tad of chaos, this is where Scrum works. This is where Scrum might be for you. If you're somewhere in the simple or complicated, Scrum might be too heavy for you. So it's good to take a closer look and see whether it won't be a process that is going just to cost you too much, because there might be lighter, better processes that are better suited to whatever you're doing. But if you are in a complex or chaotic, not in a very deep chaos, but still in the chaotic environment, Scrum is going to work. So let's hope that when we are going to kind of get ourselves out of this pandemic, this is something that is going to drag us out. So that kind of empirical approach. Questions, comments, concerns?
So does it not mean it works in complicated then? What was it?
It does work. It would just be good to assess whether there might be something that is cheaper if it comes to process. Maybe some kind of a partially defined process is going to be better suited. So it would work. It's just a matter of price. All right. So let's go into number 10, the Agile Manifesto. There were supposed to be 2 groups, and we were supposed to discuss that in 2 groups, but I guess we don't have enough people, so let's skip that. I'm only going to point out a few things about the Agile Manifesto. The one thing that is very often overlooked in an Agile Manifesto is the fact that because almost everybody knows the Agile Manifesto, it's just a matter of knowing how to read it. So the Agile Manifesto is something that tells us that the things on the left are something we value more than the ones on the right. It even says that in the Agile Manifesto, but people don't see that word that is here written on the yellow card and says over. So the important part about the Agile Manifesto is that we do that, we value that more than the other. We don't discard the things on the right. So it's not true that we don't use processes and tools. We only need individuals and interactions, because you won't be able to compile your code without a compiler. Simple as that. You won't be able, or customer collaboration over contract negotiation. You cannot not negotiate a contract. It is a requirement of law. You wouldn't be able to have a customer without some form of a contract, lawful contract. So it's not true that you don't do this. You just put your weight, you just put your value to the things on the left. Yeah. Guys, do you have some good examples on how that works in practice? How those rules work in practice? Could you share some?
Yeah, I mean, I work in a lot of banks, and you still have governance, so you still need to kind of adhere to regulatory things, which kind of are standard, they're needed. So I hear it quite a lot of times where about documentation is still needed. It's just, is it appropriate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. What other examples do you have?
For example, mixing business analysts with developers in the same group, or because sometimes internal customers, they are just stakeholders of the project.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of working in separate environment or separate businesses, they work together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This is great.
Yep.
So kind of putting them in one team is usually having some magnificent results. Yeah. Yep.
I like to think about this as a slider, so as a flexible tool where you see in different contexts where you actually are. So in some contexts, you definitely are at the beginning more focusing on processes and tools, and then slowly moving over to individuals and interactions. So from having structure, going to focus into the people actually doing the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Let me place an arrow so to illustrate that, because this is a great idea. So if you are in a banking environment, you would be closer to processes and tools in any regulated environment, because you need to adhere to many rules. But the moment you move into more of a, let's say, a startup thing, then you might slide way more into individuals and interactions, because this is exactly what you're doing in your team of 3 when you come up with some innovative ideas.
I think even the banking environment is a good example, is that they've got so much red tape that's not necessary. I think because they're focused on kind of documentation or process and tools to help them, instead of thinking, well, let's think about the working software or individuals first. It's that kind of mindset. Not saying that we don't need it. It's kind of, your stance should be from the left first, regards to, can we think about this approach first before we think about process tools to fix something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. A friend of mine is working in a friend and a customer actually together kind of is working in a company that produces medicines, basically all the types of drugs. And he actually headed a transformation in there. So he wanted to look into all the internal procedures and how many of those are dictated by the regulator, and how many of those are actually something that somebody added internally just because this appeared as if this is needed by the regulator. And it came out that only 11% of that were the ones that have been imposed by a regulator. Everything else were internal constraints.
Yeah, I've been working for a German bank, and they do that very well, regards to putting a lot more stuff that's actually needed. But yeah.
Yep, exactly. All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And for if somebody didn't see, the Waldo is there in the Agile Manifesto. So you can find him in the bottom left corner. Also, in the recording, I am going to give the link to the mural to the people who would like to take a look and visit, and so that they will be able to find it. All right, let's take a look at number 11 then. I'm going to show it right now. So this is something called an unexpected endeavor. So what I would like you to imagine right now, because this is something that is part of the full class, that just now, after a very, very brief round of introductions and no instruction about Scrum or any other process, I am giving you a website to build. There are probably developers with you, and there are probably people who have never seen the code in their life. Or even if they have seen the code, they didn't know that this was code. So in 30 minutes, you are supposed to build a website about an elephant. And that website has to have all of those things that you see here in the mural. So it's homepage, image gallery, diet information, mating and reproduction information, animal habitat information, scientific name and classification, animal anatomy and biology, and behavior. So this is what you have to build in 30 minutes. You kind of don't know each other in terms of working on a daily basis together. So what do you think is going to be the result?
30 minutes, almost. Yeah. Well, perhaps the first 2 or first 3, I think. Requirements, okay. Homepage, some gallery. Mm-hmm. Not sure about the diet information. Or perhaps yes, because I can copy and paste from Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 30 minutes is very, very short time.
Yeah, definitely. What else is going to happen?
How many people in the team?
There's going to be up to 6 people in the team.
Okay, so a mess probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that including being live as well, being on the actual web?
Yep. Yep, you would have to be online.
Uh-huh.
With his own domain name? 30 minutes is quite short for that.
It is. Yeah, so probably the moment until you actually agree on the tool is going to be marking 15 minutes or something like that. So if you manage to actually create the homepage and the gallery and the diet information, I would really be impressed. Really, really. What usually happens, even if people sit in the same room, it is a very good if they manage to do the first, only the homepage. Mm. This is usually a very, very good outcome. I once have in my life, even though I have held this training for somewhere close to 80 times. Only once in my life, I have encountered a team that in the first sprint, in the first 30 minutes, they were able to finish all of those requirements. Mm-hmm. It happened only once. No? All right, so there would be chaos. You would probably do some of those requirements. You would have some problems with communications and tooling and some stuff. So why would you think I would put you in such a situation? What would that bring?
Pressure.
Pressure. Yeah. Definitely. Why?
Because it's a common behavior in the organizations.
Bingo.
It's a very common.
Yeah.
Putting pressure without undefined goals and with unstructured teams also. Just bring together a set of people and do it.
Exactly. How many times have you been with no or very little instruction, just pushed into a project and said, go, do it?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's very common.
Exactly. So in this class, we're imitating the real life projects. What happens in those? Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Question?
Yes. So what are you expecting to happen in these 30 minutes? Are you expecting to do anything, or are you just meant to, you know, what's the outcome in regards to, you know, normally, if I recall correctly, in the physical one, is that normally I kind of give them the technology. I say, right, I want you to do it in Word just to keep the complexity out of it, because again, there's loads there as it is, and especially when we've done a lot of private ones, so I can at least control that to kind of make sure that the message gets through about, you know, as you said, about pressure and unrealistic expectations. So how do you propose that you're going to do this? Because we haven't really decided on how we're going to do this, or what technology we're going to use. Is that
what usually happens is actually because the first sprint is kind of set to fail, the first 30 minutes. We can then because usually what happens is that emotions are very, very high in the end of those 30 minutes. So then after those 30 minutes, because everybody's kind of everybody's either angry or kind of let down or confused, any types of strong emotion. So after that, we have usually quite a long talk about what happened. What does it show? How are we going to, how does that reflect what's happening on an everyday basis in their work? Because what also happens is that the habits that we have in everyday work, they just show up in this kind of stressful situation because we cannot control it in the course of 30 minutes. And after that, we usually have a talk, and that talk can even stretch to an hour, depending on how high the emotions have been, so that we can calm down and start looking at it from a learning perspective.
Yeah, so normally I literally give them to this, and this is like the first sprint, is like give it to them and say, like, let them get on with it. And then we found that people do produce something, but it doesn't have any quality or any kind of discussion, or it's kind of all over the place. And for me, that's the learning message as well, is that this isn't Scrum. You haven't got a definition, you haven't got an actual increment, I've done increment, and that is everything. So how do you kind of expect that to happen in this content, or is that?
Oh, you mean in the context of this short training?
Yeah. No. I mean, so I'm not going to spend 30 minutes, but are you expecting to actually produce something and have those learning lessons? Is that they can't actually have those expectations to do all this, and also have something that's actually releasable at the end of it if they don't kind of have the communication and also all the other aspects of gestures are done, etc.
I mean, this is because we have not agreed on what done means. So I cannot I cannot work on that. So we don't have a contract of any sort. So this is only something that me as a customer, I am coming in, looking at it and saying, I like it or I don't like it.
Yeah.
I cannot assess the technology, but if there is a lot of technical debt that has been imposed in the first sprint, then this is going to kick in the second or in a third sprint. Yeah? So there are going to be more. Yeah,
but like some normally the things you see like links are broken or their page is empty, etc. And you go, well, I can't ship that. What? So it's those kind of. I'm not saying technology-wise. It's like, well, actually, as you said, your example, I've had people that produce all this stuff, and you go, well, yes, but you've got a homepage with not this acceptance criteria. You've got this with, that doesn't have any broken links, or it's just a page with a title on it. Is that sellable for me? So that's how I kind of emphasize that. It's that first bit in regards to the expectation, but also that people then adhere to it and actually try to get as much done, but they haven't pushed back in regards to what do you mean and have the emphasis in regards to what an actual done increment is. So
Yeah. This is exactly what I also do. Is this kind of leads us to a contract of what I expect and what they have delivered. So this is something where that definition of done starts being born in that moment.
Oh yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I'm curious as to how you expect this to be turned out in this 30 minutes. Are you expecting to show something, or you leave them to it, or are you going to? You said before you're having discussions like we're having now, and have it at the end, or do you? How do you see it being played out?
I expect them to show what they have done.
Okay.
And based on what has been done, I mean, I usually have two hats. One as an instructor hat and the other as a customer hat. So the moment I stop being customer, which just is a regular customer, actually pretty good customer, because if you ask me something, I would respond, and I would respond pretty, and I would give you a lot of detail. But you have to ask me. And if you didn't ask me, then whatever the outcome of your work is going to be, because you didn't know it, because you assumed it, and assumptions are misleading. Yeah.
Okay.
So the moment they show their work, because there is a review, so they show their work, and me as a customer, I'm usually not very happy. And even if the group is very good, so they managed to deliver a couple of those, I would still find some things that I didn't like. They didn't talk with me. So I kind of, I deliberately set every group to fail, but depending on how advanced technologically they are, to the level, I would adjust the level of detail.
Okay. No, I think I kind of misled or misunderstood. Sorry, because you started the conversation at the beginning. You were saying that you'd have those conversations we had at the end and not at the beginning. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The conversation is going to happen right after everything in the sprint.
Yeah. Sorry, that's. I thought you were having 30 minutes, and that's what confused me. So yeah. Okay. I thought you might change in the approach. That was also okay.
No. But this is good. Thank you so much, because this explains a lot about the process itself of the training, and this might be beneficial to our other participants. So thanks so much. Yeah. So this is what would happen. This is what would happen in the in class. So I recommend trying that. If you have participated or led that class, if you didn't participate or lead that class, I really like the Foundations class. It's a lot of fun for everybody, participants and the instructor. All right, gentlemen, so let's go further to the part of Scrum Elements. What I would like you to do now is something that is going to be very easy for you, but please fill in that, let's work on the green part. So fill in all of the elements of Scrum. So we have roles, artifacts, events, values, and pillars, sometimes also known as legs. If you would need in the bottom of the site, in the bottom of the box, you will find a link to the Scrum guide, or if you would like the illustrated version, you can also use the illustrated version. Okay. So go ahead and fill it in. Once it's filled, we're going to proceed.
The illustrated one, when you click on it, is in Polish.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good opportunity to learn some Polish.
Yes, exactly. Probably haven't got enough time. Actually.
I have to change. I mean, the guide itself is in English.
Okay.
I didn't know if you knew the link was in Polish. That was also.
I didn't, but I'll have to change it. Thank you so much.
And you need to click in you don't go straight to Scrum Guide. You have to have 2 clicks, so you could actually change the link to be the specific Scrum Guide.
I will.
Just feedback. That was also. So.
I thought I checked the links, but I guess I didn't. I didn't do that enough. See, still have some technical debt in the mural.
Yes.
A lot of clicking. I see that both are being filled. All right. Two at once. All right. I have told you that a little before, but I hope you don't mind. I'm going to ask that again. So if it comes to roles, artifacts, and events, in all of those categories, in every category, there's one role, one artifact, and one event groups have particular problems with. What do you think would that be? Which role do you think that participants will have the biggest problem getting right?
Could you repeat, please? I missed the question, sorry.
If it comes to roles, artifacts, and events, in every of those categories, there's one thing that participants of this class usually have a problem with. So they either fill it wrong or they don't fill that at all. So the question is, what do you think, if it comes to roles, which role is the hardest to get right?
Okay.
Yeah, I see that it got bolded. So yeah, if it comes to roles, definitely the dev team. If it comes to artifacts, definitely the increment. And how about events? Which one do you think is the hardest to come up with if it comes to events?
I would say the sprint.
Definitely the sprint. Exactly, it's the sprint. So as you can see, the biggest problems that we have if it comes to Scrum is coming up with people who do the work, the outcome of the work, and the time in which the work is supposed to happen. Everything else is very easy to come up with.
Okay.
Everything else is actually waste. It is necessary waste, but it is waste. So the thing is that if it comes to that, the Scrum, apart from optimizing the product itself, it also in its process, it wants to optimize the work, the time of work, the outcome of work, and the work the ability to do the work for the people who are skilled to do that. So when you see that there is a person that tells the team, because the sprint planning is supposed to take up to 8 hours, let's sit for that 8 hours. Yeah, no, it's not optimization. If you have a well-refined backlog, and if you can do your sprint planning in 10 minutes, this is absolutely okay, as long as everybody remembers everything. If everybody understands what is going to happen. Yeah. So don't use up your time boxes. Comments, concerns, questions?
Suggestions? I'm using, instead of using bold, I'm using very often in Mural .voting, because it's very fast, it's really powerful, and it's anonymous, totally anonymous. So it's very easy to sort out all the stuff in a very easy way. So just a suggestion.
All right, thanks so much. Yeah, there is a voting session. I didn't use that before. Okay, yeah. In this exercise, it's going to be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. In this exercise, we would usually go through questions for the participants, but I guess there might be none from you, right?
Would it be beneficial to talk about the 3 pillars as well, regards to the events, regards to, I don't know if you do it late or whatever, but each event is an opportunity to inspect and adapt, and which one gives us transparency, or do you leave that for a later time?
I would leave it for the full class. But what I would also say is that if it comes to pillars and values, this is something that throughout the class, throughout the Professional Scrum Foundations class, participants are going to experience. So in the very end of the class, after we have finished all 3 or 4 sprints, because that depends on how many we are able to kind of fit in the limited time. In that time, we are going to definitely kind of sum it up. And then they are going to see that they have actually used transparency, and this is something that have worked for them. They have used inspection and adaptation in different forms, and this is something that made them improve their process. Same with values. So, okay, guys, where did you use focus? Where did you focus? Where did you use openness? Where were you open? How did that work? So there's a huge kind of wrap up and a little retrospective in regards of values and pillars. Yeah, and this is working pretty well because this is the moment when participants have already experienced that, so they see how this is working. It's not only theoretical.
Yeah. It's just generally, I kind of keep them separate, like the roles and artifacts, and get them to kind of detail those. And then we look about values and pillars later, and we add them gradually. It's just, I was curious that you've added on here, whether you use them to kind of talk it up front, because I'm conscious, that we're not going to have as much time as you normally do, because things will take longer than normal. So I just wonder if you thought actually it might be better to put that in.
One thing that works very well if it comes to adding values and pillars here in this exercise, even though we don't talk about them, only mention that, is that people actually look into the Scrum Guide and they start orienting themselves where things are. So the moment they need to use it later, they are already familiar with that, so they know where to look.
Good point. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I would probably do a break now, but since we're actually going very fast, how about we skip it, because there's one last exercise that has been left. All right. So the last exercise is called roles and responsibilities. If you click on number 14, you will find it. There are kind of expressions. Some of those expressions are, they might be too harsh. Some of them, they might be a little questionable, but this is deliberate. So what I would like you to do now is to move those cards in the particular roles. So there is a Scrum Master, there is the product owner, and there is the development team. There are as many cards as kind of have to be. So that means that none of those cards should be left outside of the roles. And if someone is, if there is more than one role that is responsible for something, or one of those more than one role does that, there's more than one card. So try to go ahead and move them into the correct roles.
Okay.
And this is definitely my favorite role discovery exercise, because this shows a lot about also how a particular company or a particular group perceives a role, so that we can kind of straighten it out.
Nice. Gets me thinking. It's cool.
Some of those are not very straightforward on purpose, so that it could spark a discussion. All right, I see that we have all the cards in places. So what I would like you to do now is to change the color of those cards that got you thinking, or you would have a problem, or you would want to talk about.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right, so let's talk about those. So let's start with the development team, and it can be non-IT. What got you thinking in there?
Well, as we start from software, right? So then it should be IT, but Scrum is about complex adaptive work. So it could be also non-IT as a product. And if you put that glasses on, then it could be also non-IT.
Yeah, exactly. This is also the card that participants also ask. This kind of shows them that inside of the development team, there can be people who are not from the IT, even though they make software. So if you are working, for example, with a system that is supposed to help lawmakers, then you would probably have a lawyer in the team, and this is okay to have him or her as a developer. Yeah. So this is why this card is there, and it's there 3 times. Yeah. All right, rights requirements. This is one of my favorites. This always gets selected.
Yeah, I put it in the middle, in between product owner and development team, and it got me thinking beforehand as well. So they do it together, the writing. Then I also thought about where the stakeholders then, because they can also write the requirements. And then we could also open it up further and think about, are we really writing requirements, or are we having conversations? So this is why I made it, and why I colored this as well.
Yeah, there is also often a question of how do you define a requirement? Whether I want a system is a requirement already, or whether define something where the team can work off kind of is only a requirement. So we have to define how we understand a requirement, and depending on that, this card might get duplicated, because if we're talking about something that just a one-liner is okay, then yeah, the product owner definitely does that. But also there is a card that says expresses what has to be done in a product. And I wanted, and I usually, when I talk, I differentiate that. So expressing what you want done, this is first, but requirements themselves in a form, in a workable form, they have to be something that is done by the development team, because they will be working on that. What we want to avoid here is having a waterfall of the product owner feeding the requirements and then kind of passing it on to the development team, and the development team would say, no, this is not ready yet, so we will not take it, and we will not work to make it ready. It is the development team's responsibility to actually make it ready for development. So this is what usually a discussion happens here. All right, and we have that observes and gives feedback if it comes to product owner.
Yeah, again, me. So that's fine for the product owner. I was thinking I was lacking another one, observes and gives feedback, which I could then put over to the development team as well. So,
yeah, exactly. And this is something to spark a discussion. Doesn't the development team also observe and give feedback? Yes, they actually do. But it's, even if it comes to the Scrum Master, this is something that is quite obvious, because this is part of the role and this is the core of the role. But people forget about this if it comes in terms of the product owner. That's why I want to show them that this card should also be there, and I did not include a third one, even though it is the development team that also observes and gives feedback everywhere around, and also inside of themselves. Yeah, so that feedback from the market, that feedback from the business perspective is overlooked a lot, and I want to stress that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, teach us how to use Scrum tools.
Yeah, that was mine. It's common. I think it's a common thing as well. Is like, what is Scrum tools? And secondly, is that means the Scrum Master needs to be an expert in tools, instead of being Scrum. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's behind here is that if the team has some kind of a tool for their sprint backlog or the product backlog, so not to disturb the team or the product owner, it is the Scrum Master that can teach people around it who want to use it on how to use it, so that the product owner and the development team can just do their work and not get disturbed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but for me, I'd say that generally it could be a development team member, etc. Is that it's the classic old Jira, etc. Or those tools like that. Is that they become now the expert or the person who looks after Jira, and it's not. It's for the development team, and sometimes the development team know how to use it better than the Scrum Master. So I would be careful with regards to thinking that Scrum Masters teach Scrum tools.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he should not be the Jira admin guy. That's true. Yeah, it's only about the kind of lifting that off the team or the product owner in case they need to focus. So it's good. Thanks, but thanks for pointing that out. I might reword it.
I think it might be worded. Yeah. Maybe teach is probably a bit of a.
Yeah. All right. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for the discussion. And thank you very much for actually participating in this session. I guess we will be wrapping up, and I will be welcoming every questions, comments, concerns, and feedback that you might have.